We start with our first very high-powered keynote address. It gives us great pleasure to welcome on stage Mr. Shashi Ruia. Mr. Ruia needs no introduction. He is the chairman of SR Group, a group with over $39 billion of turnover, 75,000 employees, operating in 25 countries with interests in steel, oil, shipping, retail, infrastructure, telecom, reality, and outsourcing. Mr. Ruia, the stage is all yours. We look forward to your address, sir.
Mr. Porter, Shri Amit Kapoorji, colleagues from the industry, ladies and gentlemen. When Deepak asked me to make a talk here, frankly, I was a bit lost because I was wondering how do I address an audience such as yours, such as here, me being a college dropout. So how much do I know about strategy and management was something that I was frankly lost. But I'll give it a shot. In 1700 AD, India's share of world income was, and I've got a lot of statistics from my support, 22.3% reduced to 3.8% in 1952. Look at where Japan has gone and where Germany has gone, and recently where China has gone. India is the 10th largest industrial manufacturing GDP. Goldman Sachs predicts that India will be the third largest economy by 2035. The history of this nation is coming a full circle. Financial integration has increased sharply in the last decade. Trade integration has increased from 25% to 35% in the last decade. Today, manufacturing accounts for 26% of GDP and employs about 22% of the workforce. I strongly believe that manufacturing is the backbone of a strong economy. In the US, 70% of the people are employed in services. And this has reduced from manufacturing the space that China has taken over. If India has to become a manufacturing force, we need skilled labor. 12 million Indians are coming into the job market every year for the next 26 years as we know it. We have to find employment for all of them. The nationalists have always been arguing social development should precede economic investment and vice versa. And in the perennial, this perennial argument, we have not optimized either. A little about my journey. I started off as an automobile shopkeeper. My father was in shipping, clearing, forwarding, stevedoring. And then we started off in construction way back in 1969. Me and my brother, we worked together. And we are proud. We have each other's strength. We have, like the introduction said, built up a sizable business. But the challenges that we have had to face coming through all this period, starting from 69, the socialistic pattern of society, the controls, industrial regulation, the FEMA, FERA, nationalization of banks, nationalization of insurance companies, quotas for coal, quotas for every raw material. In fact, the first business that I did before independently before joining my father's business, was manufacture steel cupboards. And I was not interested in the steel cupboards. I was interested in the steel that the quota would get me. So from that kind of a base, we had to keep building. And all the changes that have taken place through this last 50 years, we have had to negotiate and build whatever we could in terms of licensing, deregulation, MRTP, and so on. I don't know how much strategy played a role in this, because briefly, 8 years ago, we thought power would be a good business. And frankly, we had received a lot of money from Vodafone. And we invested $2 billion in the power projects. We decided and we actually implemented 6,000 megawatts of power. All the plants are up, except one partly not finished, and running. We were allocated coal for all these plants. We have taken the forest clearances. We have gone through 96 approvals for each project. And finally, when it came to actually obtaining a mining lease and starting producing power, day before yesterday, the Supreme Court has cancelled all the coal allocations. So I don't know how you can strategize this dynamism. We bid for some telecom licenses. We deposited 1,651 crores of rupees with the government. We put in an additional 2,400 crores to roll out the telecom infrastructure. And believe me, I could do it again. The first one was done by us in India. That is now Vodafone. And we thought we'd do it again. And after spending a total of 4,000 crores, again our licenses got cancelled. So in a country such as this, how much strategy are we going to work on? Do we go by plan thinking? We employ some of the best strategic pundits, all from Harvard, from Stanford. My own son, or rather our son, Raymond, has just graduated out of Stanford. And it's not that we don't value systems and education, but in this country, we needed strategists who is simple, who is straightforward, and the person whom I have known for the last 20 years, very intimately, our Prime Minister Modi, because 90% of our investments are in the state of Gujarat. And it is quite substantial. We have a steel plant that is 10 million tons. If I want to make a comparison, Tata's is about 7. We have a refinery in Gujarat that's 20 million tons, besides one in Chester in England, which is another 14 million tons, compared to 60 million tons of Reliance. They are large investments. We have 6,000 megawatts altogether all over India, of which 4,000 is in Gujarat. So we have had interaction with the government, with the ministers. Frankly, the easiest place to work has been, and we have been in all states, has been in Gujarat. They don't help you a lot. He's not going to pick up a phone and champion you. But things work when he's around. And I hope, I was at the meet yesterday in Make in India. It was an inspiring thought. And what's more, for the media that is present here, I know personally that he meant everything that he said. And he'll make it happen. Nothing erases the past. We need to get back our glory. We have only self-imposed barriers. We needed a, जो हम लोग हिंदी में कहते हैं, मार्गदर्शक. We needed a leader. And I hope that in Mr. Modi we do have a leader, because we are running out of time. We have been doubting our capability as a nation in the post-colonial era. And the recent launch, and everybody quotes it nowadays, the Mangalayam journey or success is a break from this psyche, that we can do it. Consistent mismatch between infrastructure needs and actual delivery has created a huge backlog, and we need capital. One thing that I've always found in my career is shortage of capital. And we don't have a robust capital market. The socialistic pattern of society that we lived through up to the 90s did not allow us to garner or collect or create personal wealth. And this has become the biggest stumbling block in trying to develop a business. And when we talk about infrastructure, it's easier said than done. There are a lot of issues, both regulatory as well as monetary. And to marry the both and really come up with an operating infrastructure is pretty steep ask. Look at the railway project, the metro project in Hyderabad. I had personally followed it. It came with about 5 lakh square feet of buildings that could be built and sold as part payment for the railways. It was a very, very ambitious project. It's been now 12 years that we have been seeing it. It's still not off the ground. And this morning I was reading that it had gone into another mess after the bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh. So it's a very, very dynamic position. Consistent mismatch between infrastructure needs and actual delivery have created a huge backlog, and we need capital. We need to unlock household savings and channel into the economy. Everybody knows we have 36%, so the second or the first largest savings percentage in the world. But how much of that is actually flowing into the capital market? The government of India, through its capture on public sector banks, deposits, the CRR, and so on, as well as hand into the biggest saving, which is the employee benefits, has got a grip on all these savings. And they try to channelize it very, very, in a very limited way to industry and to infrastructure, because of the huge gap or deficit that the government is running up every year. They say mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. There are sharp and
Are you getting my voice?
regional
Hello?
differences. I lived in Madras,
Hello? Are you
Chennai.
getting my voice?
I was educated there, and I have now moved to Bombay.
Hello? Are you able to hear us?
Now they like me
Hello?
in Mumbai.
Hello?
But
Check
anyway,
1, 2, 3.
we have got
Hello?
industry in Gujarat.
Hello? Hello?
Regional changes, regional thinking. You have the Amas in Chennai. There's a different kind of delivery when you want things done in Chennai, a different kind of delivery when you want things done in Maharashtra, a different kind of delivery when you want things done in Gujarat. And it is very, very sharply different. One has to contend with it. If you want to become an all India player, your strategy has to be worked out for every region. For example, 6 low income states that ironically control most of the minerals and resources, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, UP, Bihar, are home to more than 1/3 of the population. One would think that with the resources they have, the local people would benefit. But that has not been the case. Therefore, what is the economic model that is appropriate for India? What do we need to do to reduce the disparity? What do we need to do to reduce migration from the villages to the towns? The structural changes towards doing business need to be given greater thrust to manufacturing. And it is the only sector that can absorb from the lowest skill to the highest skill. India has, like I said, the largest youth workforce in the world. But I've been visiting China quite often. I find they have 3 levels of industry and manufacture. One is at the village level, the second is at the province level. What we call states, they call province. And what we call center, they call state. So they have 3 marked manufacturing and infrastructure development areas. Teddy bears, for example, they would be a village where the villagers would get involved individually. Copying Montblanc pens and being sold at 300 rupees would be a village industry. Making toys would be a village industry. And then you go to the provincial industries. I was traveling from, what was that? Someplace in Shanghai to Shenzhen, which is the FAW, the largest car manufacturer in China. I was visiting their plant, and on the way, we were traveling in a Mercedes-Benz at 160 kilometers an hour. The hedges were the same throughout the 300 kilometers. And there was a textile plant, which when we started, I timed it. It took us 10 minutes to cross. That is how large it was. And I went into a little detail. I hope I'm not digressing from strategy and giving some real hard. They have bunks at the back, 3 up. The employees come, they live there. There's a common meal, rice and some, I don't know what. I'm a vegetarian, I'm not getting into it. And they work 3 months on and they go home for 3 months. They attend to their agriculture, they work 12 hours a day, I have followed that model in our truck plant, which I support a mentee with, and he's now manufacturing about 1,000 trucks a month in competition with Tatas and Leyland. Young fellow who's done his MBA from Babson. The only thing he didn't know was how to make trucks. So somebody had to teach him that. The this is an opportunity as well as a threat. The 12 million people coming into the job or the workforce every year. Because if you are not going to be able to control this flow and gainfully employ them, we are going to have a social situation, as sure as anything. For example, we have got a total of 1.2 billion people. This is a big statistic, everybody knows. And we have 19 states. The biggest being UP with 200 million population. And look at the US. They've got 310 million people, but 50 states, making an average of 600,000 people per state. And we have 200 million. And every time a lady gets molested on the Howrah Bridge, the chief minister's photo comes on the television, as if she is responsible for parading the Howrah Bridge to make sure nobody is molested. We've got to get organization. We've got to push administration down to where it can be managed. Why not 50 states in India? And that will average 2 crores and become more manageable. The growth that we witnessed between 2004 and 2012 was mainly driven by manufacturing. Strong manufacturing base is the backbone for growth in service, bridging infrastructure gaps between urban and rural India. Over 800 million people are expected to migrate to cities in the next decade. I don't know how many of you would want to live in one of those cities. Time has come when we have to create employment at local levels so that local youth do not have to migrate to larger towns. We have to look at the village model of industry, establishing growth centers in rural areas. 100 new cities, Prime Minister says, I don't know how much that is going to help. But it is going to be a start. Balanced approach towards human and industrial economic development. The other thing that worries is we have to change our paradigm. Our colonial past still holds its influence. We need to be self-confident about our capabilities. Like I said again, Manglaim is a living example of what we can do. We need to change our outlook positively, channelize the energy and innovation capabilities of our youth. The refinery that we have built and Reliance has built in Jamnagar, and we are neighbors. We have the distinction of 2 of the largest refineries in the world sharing a common border. That is history, I won't get into it. But every delegation from Shell, from Exxon, from PetroChina, from Iran, who have been visiting both the refineries, one thing they come out with is that they are world-class plants. And both Reliance and us have not employed any foreign design or any foreign, except buying the IPR from wherever, DuPont and others, Kellogg. But the entire engineering and the execution, even 90% of the equipment has been sourced in India. And I invite all of you, or any of you who is interested, to visit these both refineries and see what Indian enterprise, given a free choice, can achieve. So we have to believe that we are the best. Why not a beautiful plant? Why not a top-rated engineering? We have the capability. We employ 4,000 engineers who do only design work. We outsource this capability and are now building plants. After acquiring it in-house, we have now started outsourcing it to plants in Oman, plants in Iran, plants in even in Arabia, Saudi Arabia, who are so fastidious about quality, and they have, I don't know if I should be saying it, but they have an affinity to America. And in spite of that, we are able to break through. Iraq is going to rebuild. And the plant in Oman is a steel plant. Iraq is going to have a lot of drilling wells. It's a great opportunity. Somebody has to go out and there do that. But these carry the risks. We had 40 nurses stuck in Iraq and we all panicked. It's a changing world, it's a dynamic situation. We have to take the risk and get there. Education with a focus. Somebody has to lead this force. How many of us have the courage now with the sanctions that the Americans have put on Iran to be actually, sorry, getting time, huh? Yeah, I'm going to finish. Going. The last thing that I would like to say is that in this country we need the distribution of wealth. And one has to first create it before you can distribute it. Look at other countries. After Bretton Woods, and it was dispensed with in 71, 72, the money supply in the world has grown. I was reading some statistics. The total amount of money printed in the world, not counting the world likes of Zimbabwe, is about $40 trillion. But the amount of money that the banks and other instruments that are floating around, because they are rated by S&P or Moody or Crystal, are over $700 trillion. So I was asking someone, I said, we had just received our $6 billion from Vodafone. It was an occasion, we were having lunch. And I said, what happens if I go to the UBS bank and withdraw the $6 billion in cash? The gentleman is a very well-known person. I'm not going to name him. He says, you're going to start another 2008 crisis. If I have 2 minutes, I'd like a nice little anecdote. 2 minutes? No? Okay. So I will have to give this a go by. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure speaking to all of you, talking to all of you. All I have to say is India is not such a difficult country to work. You can, with application, build up resources of over $30 billion in a short span of 40 years, all with your own capital, and we don't even have any substantial public holding. It's all private, and this is what we have built. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.